What's up, guys? We are live, going to be breaking down UFC Vegas 2. Just going over some betting, some Draftkings, and going over the card as a whole. It's really interesting. One of the worst slates I've honestly ever seen. So it's going to be really interesting from a DK perspective and a betting perspective. Honestly, not a lot of dogs can win here. But I'll dig into it, get into the odds and everything, see what we can find, and also go over some Draftkings as well. If you have any questions, just ask them anytime. Free to answer any question at any time here. So let's start with let's start with the main event here. Jessica I versus Cynthia Calvillo. If you guys haven't seen the weigh-ins, might want to check them out. Jessica I looked really, really bad on the scales. She was like something like she can't stand, which is really concerning, especially since I am picking I. Of course, I would not bet this fight. And that also, has me thinking maybe Calvillo is going to have a little bit more of an edge here because I looked like she had a really, really bad weight cut, and that is concerning. So that for DraftKings, especially at 7,900 for Calvillo, that's making me, look towards her a lot more. But as a bet, like I said, I'm not betting it, but the value for Calvillo is definitely gone. If you wanted to bet Calvillo, you should have done it when she was plus money. I still think I's going to win this if she looks, anything like herself. If that weight cut really did something to her, I think she's going to be, at a huge disadvantage. And that's why I am liking Calvillo a lot more on DraftKings than I did originally. But yeah, looking at the odds here, Jessica I plus 115 now. She's now the underdog at 8,300 on DraftKings. If there's a finish in this fight, I do think it's Calvillo, especially with the weight cut with I do think she's more likely to, have a bad performance. But yeah, Calvillo, definitely like her on DraftKings. As for a bet, do not bet this fight. I wouldn't trust either girls. I think Jessica I is going to be the more bigger girl in there still. She only missed weight by like 0.25 pounds, something like that. Nothing crazy. It's just how bad she looked on the scale is really concerning. Remember when, Aspen Ladd looked really bad on the scales, and we saw what happened to her after that. I was all over GDR. GDR was like 7,300 on DraftKings. I almost like faded Ladd. She was like 8,900, something like that. So yeah, I remember that. So I don't know if that's going to happen here, but I would not be surprised if that did happen. If I looked really, really bad, Calvillo was able to get her down. And also that small cage, I do think is going to give an advantage to Calvillo. So it's an interesting fight. I do think you are going to have to target this fight. It is in that mid-range, and there's only 10 fights on the slate. If you guys haven't heard, Minner and Griffin is not on the slate anymore, which I was really high on that fight. That fight was going to end inside the distance, and it's not there anymore. So I do think you're going to have to play I or Calvillo, and definitely leaning towards Calvillo there. So what round does Cyphers get subbed in, round 1 or 2? I think more likely she's going to get knocked out, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah, I saw the stare down. She did look fine on the stare down. It's just concerning when I did see her on the scales. Saying she couldn't stand it is concerning. I am sticking with my I pick. I am. I do think she'll be able to stuff those takedowns, but I just think it's something to look at going forward. Yeah, she didn't look bad in the stare downs for sure. All right, this fight is going to be fireworks. Another thing here, Roberson missed weight by 5 pounds. I don't know if it was on purpose. I don't know if he missed it on purpose. He didn't try to cut weight. He was one of the first to weigh in. So that's a little concerning for my Vettori pick here. As for a bet, I did like Vettori quite a bit when he was like minus 175, minus 180. Now that it's minus 220, I don't understand why it's getting that wide, especially with Roberson missing 5 pounds, because I think that gives Roberson a nice advantage here, whether it's, stuffing the takedowns, being more fresh in there. So yeah, that has me worried quite a bit. For DraftKings, I still think Vettori's a decent option in GPP because he could get a submission if you can get Roberson down. But on the other side of things, I think Roberson is fine play as well at 7,400, especially because there aren't many underdogs. And if Vettori could come out here very, very mad and upset, we've seen how mad he was at the hotel. He could come in here with that anger, gas out in that first round, and Roberson could get a late finish as well. But yeah, it is a tough card. Roberson is a fine underdog play, but I'm still picking Vettori to win. That 5 pounds is really, really concerning. Looking at the fight, does not go to decision line plus 160. I do think it's probably going to go to the distance. If it is finished, maybe see a Roberson late finish or a Vettori sub. Roberson by KO is 565. That's not bad. Submission. Vettori, I like this prop a lot. Vettori by submission plus 500. That's something I was looking at. I might put a small bet on that because I do think if he wins at the distance, it is going to be by submission. We've seen Roberson submitted twice before. And Vettori submission is really, really good. Who do I like for a first-round knockout? Agapova could get a first-round knockout. Other than that, I don't really see many finishes on this card at all. So that's a little concerning. Roberson is scary with that plus 5. I agree. I think the line should be a little bit closer. I think that 5 pounds is going to help him out. Maybe not so much, but I do think it is an advantage because I do think it'll help him with the takedowns. It'll help him be fresher in there. So that's something to look at for sure. Was thinking about making a parlay with Vettori and Andre Fili. I really like those picks. But just seeing Roberson coming in at plus 5 pounds, that is tough. That is tough. It's really something to look at. All right. Highest ceiling for DraftKings, Merab Dvalishvili, which we will get into now. All right, Merab, he is fighting Gustavo Lopez. He is 9,200. Honestly, if you do want to lock this play in on DraftKings, you definitely can. The pivots to Merab are plays like Ivy and Avila, and I'm not so sure that they will outscore Merab. I think Merab is definitely live here to get many, many takedowns and even live for a finish, I believe, in this fight. Watch some tape on Lopez. He's a very good striker. Hits very hard. I don't really see him knocking out Dvalishvili, but if you think he has a chance and you want to place a small bet on Lopez, maybe just do hedge plus 1,200 KO for Lopez is something to look at. But I think Merab's going to win. I do think he can actually win inside the distance here as well. We've seen Lopez finish, I think, twice with strikes. So maybe Merab can take him down, finish him with strikes down there. But coming on 2 days' notice, it's no wonder why Merab's minus 705. He was like minus 1,000. The line closed a little bit. Yeah, Merab, high ceiling, easily. High ceiling there. Yeah, but yeah, Merab, I'm going to be all over him in DraftKings. As for a parlay, if you are parlaying more than 4 or 5 fighters, you can throw Merab in there. That's fine. I'm personally might look and doing like a fun parlay with my most confident picks. I have 5 picks I'm pretty confident in. I'll get to those in a little bit. But yeah, Merab should dominate here, no problem. For DraftKings, I'm going to have a lot of him. He is going to be really chalky, definitely over 50% for sure. And I might hedge that with some Lopez because it is an MMA fight. Anything can happen. Lopez could knock out Merab. At low ownership, it's worth a shot, but I'm not going to have much of it. Next fight, Andre Fili versus Charles Jourdain. This fight, I'm pretty confident in. I think the only way for Jourdain to win here is a by knockout. And I like Fili quite a bit. I think he's better everywhere. I think he's better on the feet, on the mat. I think he can get takedowns here on Jourdain. I was all over Jourdain against Doo Ho Choi. But here, I just think Fili's the better fighter everywhere. It's hard to pick Jourdain. As for DraftKings, you've got to play some Jourdain at 7,600 because he is live for a knockout always. But Fili's one of my most confident picks here. So I did place the bet on him. I placed the bet when the line was minus 190. Now it's minus 225. I wouldn't place a straight bet on that, but I am looking for a parlay with Fili in it. Fight doesn't go to decision. I do think there's a chance this fight actually goes to decision. If there is a finish, it's most likely Jourdain or maybe even a Fili submission. Fili submission is plus 790. So that's something to look at there. But overall, I think Fili's probably going to win a dominant decision unless he gets caught by Jourdain. So leverage spots, I do think there's a couple. First one being, instead of going up there and playing Merab, playing Avila instead or playing Ivy instead, I think it's really risky. Other than that, playing some of the lower owned guys like we saw on last week's card, The low-owned guys dominated. Ian Heinisch, very low-owned. Perez, who I liked a lot, really low-owned. Caceres had a really nice path to victory. He was low-owned. So you got to look for those spots where they're really low-owned and have a chance to, score well. That could be, could be anybody. It could be Charles Rosa. I don't see him getting down Aguilar, but he could maybe win a decision, but don't think it will score high. But could it be enough if there's no other underdogs winning? It could be. Hannah Cyphers, the more tested fighter. There's no way she should win this, but she's more tested than Agapova, so that's something to look at there. Other than that, there's not much leverage on this card. There's not, because it's only 10 fights. I do think there's probably only gonna be like 1 or 2 dogs, if that, win here. I was picking Minner to win. Wasn't too confident in that. I am picking one underdog to win, which I'll get into here in a second. But let's look at some of these questions here. Roberson, Vittori, Feely, Jourdain, Rosa, Aguilar to all go the distance at plus 1250. Wow, yeah, that's worth a shot. That is worth a shot. The one that had me most worried would probably be the Feely, Jourdain. I think Rosa and Aguilar will probably end up going the distance, but yeah, that's decent odds for that. What are my thoughts on Hannah Cyphers? I'll get to that in a couple fights here. All of a sudden, my guy Rosa. Okay, I see you, DFS. No, I'm not on Rosa. I do think he does not have the best path to victory. But anything can happen. I don't see him, hurting Aguilar on the feet. I don't see him taking Aguilar down. So really tough path to victory for Rosa there. But this fight is one I'm not too excited in. Jordan Espinoza, Mark De La Rosa. This is awful. This is an awful fight. This is bad. I don't like either of these fighters. I think Espinoza is pretty bad, and I think Mark De La Rosa is a little worse. But I do see a path to victory for Mark De La Rosa, and that's why I will have a small amount on DraftKings. It's nothing crazy, not a bull take or anything. But if De La Rosa gets this to the ground, he's a BJJ black belt. Espinoza has been submitted 4 times. So if he does get Espinoza to the mat somehow, I don't see it happening, but it could. I think Espinoza is in a lot of trouble, and I think that's why the line is this close. And also on the feet, Espinoza does have that athletic ability. He does have that power, but I do think it's kind of close on the feet. But it's really tough to pick Mark De La Rosa here. I'm picking Espinoza, not confident in the pick, would not lay any type of bet on this fight whatsoever. As for DraftKings, don't love it at all. But I do think, like the person I was asking about a leverage spot, yeah, it's a leverage spot because this fight's going to be very, very low owned. Very low owned. I know this is probably the fight that's going to be the lowest owned on the whole slate. Maybe Aguilar Rose is going to be a little bit lower owned. But yeah, this fight's going to be really, really low owned. So maybe Mark De La Rosa does get him down and gets a sub. So I am going to have a little bit of De La Rosa. As for Espinoza, not loving it. Not loving it at all. Yeah, I was thinking about this too, and this was what I was thinking about, like for Minner. I thought maybe there won't be an underdog that wins, and I thought Minner could dominate that first round, get a lot of takedowns, get a lot of advances, and even end up on the optimal lineup as a loser. So this is something to look at as well, because I haven't seen it done before where a loser is on the winning lineup. And I'm not saying it's going to happen this week, but I'm saying there's a good chance. And, I don't really see, a loser really scoring high. Yeah, I don't really see a loser scoring high. Maybe Aruch with some volume, maybe a takedown or two. I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be tough. Espinoza by KO, you're all over him. Yeah, he hits very hard. We've seen De La Rosa knocked out before. I don't disagree with that. It's just not too high on Espinoza. Calvillo, De La Rosa, Cyphers, Rosa are the dogs. Calvillo, yeah, I see that. De La Rosa, I see a path to victory. Cyphers, honestly, I see a path to victory for her. If you guys saw Cyphers at the weigh-ins and the stare downs, yeah, Cyphers is at a huge height and reach disadvantage, and that's what I don't like about her. But yeah, she's tough. She does have finishes on her record. I think this is going to be a very good fight with Agapova. Rosa, yeah, I can see it. I can see him winning a very, very boring decision. Just not something I want to touch there. Who do you lock no matter what tomorrow? My highest own, I'm not going to lock anybody because I do think there's going to be an advantage if, say, Avila outscores Merab or even Ivy outscores Merab, which I don't think it's going to happen, but it could. So I'm not going to lock anybody, but my highest owned fighter is going to be Philly. I was messing around with lineups today. I had him about 64%, might up that up to like 70 something, but I do not want to go all in because I do think there will be some leverage if Philly does get like a quick finish, or he does, just lay on Lopez the whole fight, and he will be massively owned. So I feel if Jourdain loses by decision, he still might be able to accumulate a good amount of points from. Yeah, he could. It could be a fight that goes to decision. He could land a lot of volume on Feely. Yeah, I agree with that. Merab is going to get 10 takedowns. Yeah, I was thinking 10 at the least. I could see 15 takedowns. He does not have the best top control at all. So I feel like Lopez could get back up. We have not seen too much of Lopez's ground game, but if he does get back up, he's going right back down. No question about that. All right, what fight am I on now? Agapova versus Cyphers. All right, so I liked this Agapova play a lot when she was like minus 200 or something. Was saying about parlaying that, but she's up to minus 340 now, which is insane, but warranted in a way. I think she has an 8-inch reach advantage, like a 4-inch height advantage. So yeah, I think Agapova is going to roll here. As for DraftKings, I love her at 8,700. She's not in the 9,000 range. I was hoping they would put her in like the 8,800, 8,700 range, and they did. I do think she's live for a finish. She is plus 185 to win inside the distance, which is one of the best inside the distance props on the whole slate. We've seen Cyphers finish before, and I think she's going to give Cyphers a lot of problems. On this flip side of things, I do see a case where you can play some Cyphers for a couple of reasons. She's going to be very, very low owned. We saw Caceres. He was very, very low owned last week against Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper was the play everybody was talking about. Everybody was on Chase Hooper. This could be the same thing with Cyphers. Cyphers is tested in the UFC. Agapova is not. I think Agapova is the more skilled fighter, but Cyphers is very, very tough. She's not going to back down. She's going to come to fight, and she has finishes on her record too. So anything can happen. So I am looking at Cyphers a little bit there. All right. All right, let's look at some of these questions now. All right. The minute Cyphers hits the match, she said, yeah, usually that's what would happen. I don't necessarily think Agapova can sub her. Maybe she can. I can definitely see some ground and pound there. Cyphers stand up. She wins a decision. Yeah, I could see it. It's going to be hard to, that deal with that reach and that height, I think, for Cyphers, and that's why I think she's such a big underdog here. Lock in Espinoza, Nahum, and Agapova. Also lock in the real me. August 1st against Brunson. I agree. Edmund Shabazian. I'll lock you in against Derek Brunson. I'm a huge Edmund fan, as you are. So next fight, we have Aguilar versus Rosa. I think this fight's going to be a very sneaky fight to own on DraftKings, whether either side you end up taking. I actually like Aguilar, and I like him quite a bit. The thing that worries me is Rosa is going to come in here with a lot of volume, and it is hard to trust Aguilar. It really is. He got knocked out in like the first couple minutes his last fight against someone who's not known for his knockouts. Aguilar is very, very tough, very good chin. He's been knocked out twice, so I don't think Rosa's going to knock him out or anything, but I think Rosa could win a very, 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 very ugly decision. He's not going to get down Aguilar. Aguilar's takedown defense is very, very good, but he could, outstrike Aguilar in a very close decision. But I do have Aguilar. I am pretty confident in him, actually. I do think he's going to land the harder shots. Rosa might land a little bit more, but I think he's going to land the harder shots, the more convincing shots. Also, wouldn't even be surprised if Aguilar did even get a knockout here. Aguilar by knockout is plus 325. That's something to look at there. But yeah, this fight, if it doesn't finish, I'm not too sure it is going to score well on DraftKings, but I do think it's something to target just because it is going to be low owned. Rosa has the bigger heart. I agree. I do think Rosa is probably going to be coming in there wanting to win more than Aguilar. Not saying Aguilar doesn't want to win, but I do agree with that. Yeah, I'm on it. I'm on it too. I just think I'm struggling to find a path to victory for Rosa besides, winning a very, very close, ugly decision. Aguilar's chin, it could be gone. He did get hit really hard. I don't think Rosa is going to be able to hit him with some of those same shots as his last fight. Rosa does not have that power. So I'm not really too concerned about his chin in this matchup. What I am concerned about him coming out here and being low volume compared to, Rosa landing a little bit more, being a little more active. That's what I am worried about. And how well will that score on DraftKings? I don't think it will score too well, actually. So honestly, not too interested in Rosa. And Aguilar, I think he does have sneaky knockout upside. Nobody's going to play this fight. So, yeah, I'm still picking Jessica I. The weigh-ins and her on the scale was very, very concerning. She looked fine during the stare down, though. So if all is good, I think she will be the bigger fighter in there and stop the takedowns. But this fight's 50-50. I'm not placing a bet. I am honestly going to have more Calvillo than I on DraftKings for a couple of reasons. I think there's takedown upside. I think there's finish upside for Calvillo. I think she's the better DraftKings scorer. If I wins a 5-round decision, she might not even be on the optimal lineup. That's something to look at as well. Rosa can definitely win by a head kick. Just don't really think that's likely. Rosa by sub, it'd be really tough to get Aguilar down here. I really think it would. Isn't this like the third time he retired? I think he'll be back. Pretty confident he'll be back there. So getting to the next fight here, Julia Avila versus Gino Mazzani. I like Avila here everywhere. I think she's, I don't want to say a lock ever. You can't say a lock in MMA, but I think she's about as close to a lock as you can get up there with Davalishvili. But as for DraftKings, it's tough because there are not many underdogs. There aren't. So you do want to play Merab, but if you want to take, get some ownership, I think Avila will be the lower owned fighter compared to Merab by a good margin. So maybe Avila goes out there and dominates and scores more than Davalishvili. I don't think it's likely, but it can happen, and that's why I do have actually quite a bit of Avila as well. But yeah, as for Mazzani's side, not interested in it at all on DraftKings, on anything. Yeah, I think Avila has a good chance to finish inside the distance, so that minus 145, that is something to look at there as well. I like that as well. Avila plus 145 by KO. That's nice. That's a very nice line there. But yeah, if you could put it in a parlay, I think it's safe. If you want to parlay it up with 4 other fighters, get plus money, you can. Davalishvili, Avila, Agapova. That's pretty close to That's pretty close to plus money there. Throw in another fighter you're confident in. Calvillo, yeah, she's around minus 130 now. The weigh-ins really, did that, I believe. If those weigh-ins, were normal and I didn't say that she couldn't stand, I think I would still be the slight favorite, or it would be a pick'em there. So I work in a medical field, and I'm pretty concerned about Roberson botching 2 weight cuts. He developed, can't read that word, his last cut, which is a life-threatening muscle condition. I think even with the advantage, you'd be worried about the cardio, at least worry about the cardio. Okay, so he thinks that, concerned about the advantage, like the cardio for Roberson. That could be. It could be. I think that is unhealthy what he's doing, and he did have to go to the hospital. So I do think that's unhealthy. So I do, maybe that plays into why the Vettori line is so wide. I like Avila and Ivy more than Merab. I mean, if that's what you want, I think you're going to have a huge advantage because Merab is going to be very, very, very chalky. And I definitely see why you think that. If you want to get an edge, yeah, for sure, that's a great way to get an edge. But yeah, as a scorer, you cannot deny the amount of points Marav can get, even in decision win. That's 100% correct. I do think he's going to score a lot. I think the floor is like 95, 100 points, honestly. I think he's one of the best DraftKings plays that I've seen. He can just pick people up, slam them no matter who they are. Lopez's takedown defense, is nowhere near, Kenny's or some of these other guys, Simone's that Merab has faced. But yeah, highest ceiling for sure. Exactly. You got to play the good chalk sometimes, and I think this is probably it. But on the other side of things, I will have some Avila. I will have some Ivy. All right. This fight's interesting. This fight is interesting. Got to get into this a little bit. Tyson Nahum versus Aruch Adeshev. Nahum opened up at like minus 200. The line closed. Actually opened up like minus 230. I thought he'd open up at like minus 200, but the line closed a little bit. He's now a minus 125 favorite. So this is my first and only underdog. I was picking Minner, but this is my only underdog I'm picking. And for a couple reasons here, I do think Zaruch's going to land the more volume here. I think Nahum is honestly knockout or bust here. Not saying it can't happen, but I do think Zaruch's going to throw the more volume. He's going to come to fight. Nahum doesn't throw much at all. So if Nahum does not get that knockout, I think Zaruch's going to win a decision or even get a finish himself. This play is going to be very popular on DraftKings because there aren't many underdogs. And, this guy, he's pretty close to a pick 'em, 7,700. I do think there's going to be a lot of volume, even a finish upside here. But yeah, Nahum's been knocked out once. He's lost by decision 10 times. I can see another decision loss here for Nahum if he does not get that knockout. On the flip side of things, Tyson Nahum, I believe, is going to be pretty low owned. If people look at his scores at recent fights, he doesn't score well at all. But he does have very, very good power. Very good power. He has finished 62% of his fights. If he does get a finish here, it'll be very low owned. It'll be a slate breaker. And Zaruch is not that tested in MMA. I know he has a kickboxing background, but he's not that tested in MMA, and this is an MMA fight. He has 4 total fights in MMA. So I can see arguments for playing both sides here, and this is a fight I'm honestly going to have probably more ownership than I should because I think Zaruch's a very good play because I think if he doesn't get knocked out, he's going to do very well. And if there are other underdogs that win, I think he's going to probably be on the optimal lineup no matter what he scores. If he scores like 80 points, if he scores like 75, I think it's going to be enough to get on the optimal lineup with there not being so many dogs. So Zaruch is somebody I'm pretty high on. But on the flip side of things, I will play some Nahum. He's going to be very, very low owned. He has the experience. He has a lot more experience than Zaruch, and he hits hard. I wouldn't be surprised if Nahum even came out here and tried to take Zaruch down as well. So that is a fight I'm really interested in there. All right, some more questions here. Ivy Agapova, I would not parlay Ivy. Nahum didn't attempt to take down a Pettis. His fight IQ is low. Yeah, I agree. I do not like his fight IQ at all. He does not throw much. Not an exciting fighter. On the flip side of things, I think Zaruch is, going to come out here and try to bring the fight, try to finish the fight. Nahum would be smart to go. He would be very smart to go for a takedown. But the question is, will he? Haven't seen much of him going out there for takedowns. So I'm not confident he will, but if he does, I think he has a decent advantage with all the experience he has. Yeah, Nahum, he's not an exciting fighter. Does not throw much, but he does hit very hard. When he connects, he hits hard. So I could see a path to victory where he does get a finish on someone as untested as Zaruch here. So for that reason, I am interested in him. And in the other side of things, I think he's going to be low owned, which is another reason I'm interested in things. But yeah, he's not that good. I don't think he's that good. Just very low volumed and a very not an exciting fighter. Which fight will be canceled next? I don't know. I was thinking the Calvillo fight would get canceled after hearing say she couldn't stand. I really did think that fight was going to get canceled, which would make it a 9-fight slate on DraftKings, which that would be awful. Probably wouldn't even play at that point. I mean, nothing's wrong with him. I'm just not too confident in his stand-up game at all. His striking is not the best. He does hit hard, but I'm worried that if he does not go out here with a smart game plan, he could be in a lot of trouble. And we'll transition into that right now. Ivy, Aguilera. Yeah, Ivy minus 185, Aguilera plus 170. Watched tape on both these guys. Honestly, I was more impressed with Ivy for sure. So I can see why he's the favorite. He has some good takedowns. But if he comes out here and stands with Aguilera, we've seen Ivy hurt before. He hasn't been finished yet by a knockout, but we've seen him hurt before on the feet. And Aguilar comes out here trying to brawl, trying to end this fight inside the distance. On the flip side of things, Aguilera has been finished by knockout 4 times. Now, I could see Ivy finishing him on the feet, but I think the more likely scenario is Ivy taking Aguilera down and finishing him with some ground and pound. But I've seen Aguilera on his back for a whole round against a black belt in BJJ. He was really good at fighting off submissions, so I don't necessarily think that Ivy's going to get a submission here. So Ivy by knockout is plus 175. That's something to look at. Plus 470 for sub for Ivy. But yeah, this fight is a fight I'm going to want to target on DraftKings for a lot of reasons here, and I'll tell you why. The first fight of the night has been absolute money for me, and whoever has been targeting the first fight of the night. I used to, a couple months ago, a year ago, would not like the first fight of the night because if it did not go well, your lineups, aren't doing well off to a good start, all that. But I've been absolutely killing the first fight of the night. These guys are going to be low owned because it is the first fight of the night. Nobody knows who they are. I know it's a 10-fight slate, but this fight's going to be lower owned than it should be. I think it could have some ownership, but that's just because it's a 10-fight slate. Nobody's probably going to play that much Ivy with Merab up there. Aguilera, there's not much underdogs. There's not at all. So, Aguilera is somebody I'm looking at as an underdog for sure because I do think there's finish upside. If he can keep this on the feet, he is very, very live for a finish here. He is very live for a finish. I even think he can get takedowns himself. Would it be smart to do that? Probably not, but I've seen him go for takedowns himself, has decent wrestling and all that. But yeah, this is a fight I'm going to be pretty heavy on, probably almost 100%. If the fights already get canceled, yeah, the Minner and Griffin fight got canceled. So we're down to a 10-fight slate. Which fights to avoid in the parlays? Ivy. I would avoid the Ivy Aguilera fight for sure. Not confident in it. If Ivy comes out here with a bad game plan and tries to stand with Aguilera for any point of time, I think Aguilera could definitely catch him. Nahum, I would stay away from the Nahum. De La Rosa and Espinoza, I'd probably stay away from that in parlay. If maybe Espinoza is okay. I just don't trust him, but he's definitely okay in a parlay. Yeah, I'm not picking him. I'm not picking Aguilera at all. He's been knocked out 5 times, very chinny. But I'm just saying this fight could be a lot closer than people think. And I think Aguilera is going to be very low owned on DraftKings. So I am going to have a decent amount of him. But on the flip side of things, I will have a good amount of Ivy as well because I do think this fight's going to finish inside the distance. Seems like Aguilera finishes most of his fights in the distance or in the first round or loses in the first round quite a bit. So definitely can see it. What is your finishing move? Mine is the rear naked choke. Cypher's stand up is good, but her IQ sucks. I mean, this fight is very interesting, the Cypher's fight, because I think Cypher's is going to be one of the most low-owned fighters on the slate, which really intrigues me because I will have some ownership for her. I know the path to victory is definitely there. It's not likely at all, but she has that experience. She hits hard. She comes to brawl every fight. That's why I do think she has a shot. I'm not picking her to win or anything. I think Agapova is going to win this pretty handily, but she has a shot. And when on a fight with not many underdogs, I am going to take a shot on a little bit of Cyphers. Agapova or Ivy on DK, I would definitely go with. I'd say Agapova is the more safer play, and she also has upside, and she's at a cheaper price. But Ivy, is a little bit sketchier play. Does have that upside, and he is 9,000, so it's going to be tough to fit Merab and Avila in a lineup. It's going to be hard to fit Merab and Ivy in a lineup, so I would probably favor Agapova as a DraftKings play. Feely avoiding as for DraftKings and as a parlay. No, I was actually looking at parlaying Feely with Vittori before I saw that Roberson came in 5 pounds overweight. But as for DraftKings, I like Feely a lot. I like that price on Feely. I think there's takedown upside. I think there's volume upside. I think there's finish upside. Really, Griffin by sub was plus 900. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought had a good chance of happening. Minner coming out there, dominating that first round and getting subbed. In there. Thank you, Jax. I see you too, Prodigy. All we need is Eric in here. The only dog you like is Roberson. Yeah. I'll go through the dogs I like in here pretty quick for DraftKings wise and all that. But for DraftKings, the dogs I'm looking at, Aguilera, Zaruk, not Mazzani, not much Rosa. Cyphers is a very, very low owned pivot there off of some of these other underdogs. De La Rosa is somebody low owned I'm looking at because he could get the sub if he gets it to the ground, but not confident in that at all. Charles Jourdain, someone I'm going to play just in case he does get that knockout. Not confident in that. Lopez going to stay away. Going to have 3% in that 150 max. I mean, he could clip Merab, just not likely at all. Roberson 7,400. That 5-pound weight advantage I think is going to help him. Honestly, I think that Vettori can come out here and maybe gas himself out. Try to finish the fight early, and if he doesn't, maybe gas himself out, and I think Vettori can take over late. I think Roberson can take over late. And then, of course, Calvillo is somebody I'm going to be pretty heavy on because there isn't much underdogs there. So this fight card is very, very tough for DraftKings, which I love because, as we saw last week, there are going to be a lot of fights that are over-owned, and people are going to ignore the Perez's, the Hyenishes, the Cacereses. People are going to ignore those. Like, I think there are some leverage spots here where you can gain some leverage. Eric would have Gina's, yeah. I can check it right now. I think he has. Yeah, Aguilar has lost by decision twice. But I don't think this fight's going to go to decision. I don't think it's going to be left up to the judges. That's why I am going to be so heavy on this card. I mean, this fight on the first fight of the night. It's funny you say that. I went on to DraftKings and I made a lineup in about 5 seconds and I loved it. And honestly, I can't make any other lineup. So yeah, cash is nice for this card, but the problem is I have a feeling everybody's going to have the same lineup, which is scary. But yeah, I like this card for cash or GPP. I am comfortable with my ownerships so far. Pretty comfortable with everything. I have a lot of nice pivots that I'm looking at, some low-owned guys that I'm looking at as well. And I'm confident with a bunch of Philly, a bunch of Avila, a good amount of Ivy as well. Yeah, it'll honestly probably be the same lineup. There was actually another lineup I was looking at, but I think the smart thing is going to be, go up there and get Avila, go up and get Merab, and then go down and, get Mazzani is going to win me 100K. It could. I mean, if you're on her, you're on her. And yeah. So yeah, I'll go over my most confident plays now. Vettori was one of my most confident plays. Not for DraftKings, but for a pick wise. Until that 5-pound advantage for Roberson. Now it's a little, up in the air. I still lean Vettori quite a bit, but it's just a lot closer. Philly, obviously really confident. Feely, obviously really confident. I don't see a path to victory for Jourdain besides a knockout. Espinoza, not confident in that at all. Agapova, really confident in that. I think that height and reach is going to give Cyphers a huge advantage there. Aguilar, actually really confident in that. I see a lot of people in the chat on Rosa. And I mean, I see it's hard to trust Aguilar, but I think he has a really nice path to victory here, stuffing those takedowns, landing the harder shots, and even maybe getting a knockout here. Avila, 9,300. Really confident in that. It's just, do you want to play Merab or do you want to play Avila? And I'm about 60%. I was about 64% Merab and about 40% Avila. When I was messing around with the lineups earlier, I might go up to 70% Merab. And Zaruk, not confident, and Ivy, not confident in at all. Is Ray Borg a free square tomorrow? I mean, he's not really a square at all because he's not really fighting anymore. I guess he had something with his son, so he did pull out. Smart money going on the dogs. Yeah, there's a lot of money coming in on Calvillo. Other than that, really don't. I guess a lot of money came in on Lopez. Merab was like a minus 1,000 favorite. Other than that, don't really see too much. Yeah, I don't think there are many underdogs this week, and that's what's going to make this fun. One of these underdogs are going to hit, and whoever won you're on the most. Hopefully it's for me. It's probably going to be Zakar or Aguilera. Those are probably my most owned. I'm going to have some ciphers. I'm going to have some De La Rosa, some Jourdain, but some Roberson. I'm going to have a decent amount of Roberson, but this card is going to be pretty tough. So really looking forward to it. I love tough cards. I think I have my best nights on the tough cards just because I do spread out the ownership well. All right, guys, about 5 more minutes. Any more questions, ask them now. I think I pretty much covered everything betting wise. I did have a bet on Feely, but it was before the line got shot up, and I had a bet on Aguilar, and that was also before the line got shot up as well. So as for that, I'm looking at making a couple parlays for fun, maybe like 4 or 5 fight parlay, maybe put a little bit on that, and then also I was, like I said, looking at the Vittori Feely parlay, but might try maybe Feely and Agapova, something like that, something to look at there. All right. All right, just recap it real quick. Nahum versus Aruch. I think Aruch has a very good shot to win here. I am picking him to win. I think if he comes in here ready to fight, which it seems like he does in all his fights, he comes here, tries to get the finish, brings the volume, and that's just something Nahum doesn't do. So going to have a lot of Aruch, but I will have some Nahum at low ownership just in case he does get that knockout. Prediction on Edmund Shabazian versus Israel. I don't know. We'll have to find out if that ever happens. No problem, Daniel. Thanks for subscribing. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. Trying to work my way up to 3,000 subscribers. Really grew over this past month and a half, 2 months. So thank you guys all for that. Do you really want to own ciphers? I can't convince myself to have even one line with her. She seems like a dead dog. Yeah, I do. I do play 150 lineups also with the 20 max. If I'm doing the 20 max, or you guys are doing like a lineup or 20 max, I wouldn't play ciphers, but I do the 150 max. And that's what it was like last week. Like I didn't want to play any Heinisch, but I did. And doing that, it helped me take down the $1 150 max, playing some Heinisch. 3% is all it took. So maybe all it takes is 3% ciphers to maybe get a takedown. But yeah, and Caceres as well, like very low owned. I like targeting these low owned fighters that have a path to victory. Appreciate it, Prodigy. Thank you, Paul. All right, guys. If there's nothing else, I'm gonna end this video. I touched on it a little bit at the beginning of the video, so just rewind that. Touched on it like a lot actually, but yeah. 10 fighter parlay, yeah. I think if you're going to do a 10 fighter parlay, this week's the week to do it for sure. There are 5 fighters I'm really confident in. Other than that, it gets a little iffy, but yeah. Thank you, Thomas. How to keep track of your 150 max to know your percentage owners and all that? Do you have a sheet you can share on Patreon? Yeah, I could share that. I do put my lineup percentages up there on Patreon. I use Fantasy Cruncher. I plug in my projections onto there. It's really easy. You plug in the projections, and then you can like mess around with the percentages. I make sure to, no matter how bad the play is, like I thought Heinisch was an awful play last week, to get at least 3% in there, and that 3% did get me a takedown last week. But yeah, I like to spread out my ownership quite a bit. 20 max, I like to condense it a lot more. All right, guys, gonna end with this one. Last one. See you tied in first place, and that's a great way to sum up the card. Tied in first place, indeed. 10 fighters. Got to be a little different somewhere. And yeah, good luck, guys. And make sure you like this video if you enjoyed it and it helped you out a little bit. Also, subscribe. You can check me out on Patreon. My sheet here I'm going to be posting my article tonight and also a premium breakdown video as well on there tonight. Lots of good content on there. And good luck, guys.